in Revelation, the book of Revelation 2, listen to this, please. In the book of Revelation 2, verse 26, it says, and he who overcomes, meaning the overcomer, meaning the second coming, the last, him who Israel represents, and obviously all of those, the chosen few who follow his doctrine. And he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him I will give power over the nations. I will give power, meaning authority. He will be a lawgiver. I will give power over the nations. Listen to this. He shall rule them with a rod of iron. He shall rule them with a rod of iron. Meaning, he shall rule them with a scepter. What scepter? The one that was at the feet of Yahudah. But once Shiloh, the overcomer appeared, Yahushua gave him the scepter because it belongs to him. As we are seeing here, Yahushua is saying, and he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him, singular, the last, I will give power over the nations. He shall rule them with a scepter of iron. They shall be dashed to pieces like the potter's vessels. The enemies of Yahushua will fall before his hand, the second coming, who will have the rod of iron, the scepter. And he says, as I also have received from my Father. So that which Yahushua received from the Father, he will give to the last, who is the second manifestation of the Father. And I will give him the morning star, the sun, actually. Hillel ben Shachar, as it is called in Revelation 14. There are people who say that, as they call him, that Jesus is Lucifer. And they don't know what they're saying, but in a way, they're saying more than you may think. Because in Revelation, we see that Messiah, the second coming, is called the morning star. He is given the morning star. Why is he given the morning star? Because he was in the hands of another, Lucifer, who is called morning star. So it's not that Messiah is son of Lucifer, or that Messiah is Lucifer, as some have interpreted from these verses. It's the fact that that which Yahweh gave to Lucifer will be taken from him and given to the last. That's why, just like the sun appears and goes up and then goes down, at least to our perspective, Lucifer, at the beginning of time, he wanted to go up and put his throne right next to the Father, but then he went down because of his rebellion. Now Yahweh will take that star, that luminary, and give it to the last to represent him, and because he is the son of justice, as we see in Revelation 4:2. In Malachi 4:2. So in Malachi 4:2, the son of justice comes, the second coming. That's why the sun, the morning star, will be given into the hands of the last. And that's why we see that in the new heavens and the new earth, there will not be a need of sun, because the Messiah will be the light of it. So the second coming will replace Lucifer as the mighty one of this world. This is very important. He will replace him. He is not him. He will replace him. That's why Jacob replaced Esau. That's why David replaced Shaul. That's why Paul or Paulus replaced Judas, etc., etc., one after the other. We see in scripture. That's why Jacob was named the supplanter, because he represents he who will supplant the enemy to become Israel, he who will reign as Elohim on earth. That's why Shet or Set was named that, which means substitute, because he would substitute Hevel or Abel, who had been killed by Cain. So we see the rod of iron, which will be given to the second coming, the last, in Revelation 2:27. Then we see it in Revelation 12. Verse 5, talking about the congregation as a woman, a virgin woman, it says, she bore a male child, the second coming, who was to rule all nations as the great king. All nations with a rod of iron, with a scepter of iron. which belongs to him, according to Revelation 49. And her child was caught up to Yahweh and his throne, because he will be king. Then the woman fled to the wilderness. That is the second Exodus, as I have explained in other studies. Revelation 19, it says, verse 14, and the armies in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. This is after he overcame. This is after he overcame. So this cannot be the second coming, as Alejandro was mentioning Christians preach. Revelation 19 cannot be the second coming, because here he already overcame. So he had to appear before this on earth to overcome, die and resurrect, and then come to do this with the authority that Yahweh will give him once he overcomes. So, and the armies in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. Now out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should strike the nations. The sword is the spirit that we receive through Yahushua. Yahushua is the sword. The last is the bow. So the spirit of Yahushua will come out of the mouth of the last, who is the voice, like a sharp sword, that with it he should strike the nations. And he himself, the overcomer, will rule them. Shiloh will rule them with a scepter of iron, with a rod of iron. Because he comes as a Gentile. Iron is connected to the Gentiles. Is connected to the angels. So is Michael appearing on earth as a Gentile to the nations, to take the scepter and rule over them. He himself treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty Elohim. That is not Messiah Yahushua who brought mercy. That is the last who brings vengeance. Of course, the only way that the last can achieve that is through the first, through his forgiveness. Because we can do all things through Messiah who strengthens us. So the last will be strengthened by Messiah to fulfill that which he has to fulfill. And he has on his robe and on his thigh, not only on his robe, he has on his thigh a name written. That will be a tattoo nowadays. And according to a lot of people, tattoos take people to hell, which is obviously a lie, because they're not understanding what Leviticus says regarding that. Remember that flesh and blood will not enter the kingdom. So there are many things that can be said about that, but I just wanted to mention that because I find it funny that Messiah has written on his thigh something on his flesh, and many people would say, oh, that is a sin. But anyways, on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Sovereign of Sovereigns. That is when he finally takes his place as king, because Messiah took his place as Kohen, as intercessor between the Almighty and men.